Today we are diving into a series that is possibly one of the most influential to the genre of fantasy video games, Final Fantasy. Now, there are 16 main titles with hundreds of spin-off titles in this series going all the way back to 1987, and up until a little while ago I hadn't played a single one of them until a little trailer dropped online and I was like,
"You might have Flap and the rich lady under your spell, but it's gonna take more than that to impress me."
So needless to say, I was impressed by the Final Fantasy VII Remake and decided to play the game, and I was blown away with how pretty it was. So I'm going to be making fan art of Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, and talk a little bit about my experience with the game, the art, and some things that I've learned from my time in Midgar. I'm going to start out with a basic sketch of a pose that I made with a 3D model in Clip Studio Paint. I like doing this so it's easier for me to get started quickly without spending ages on a sketch. For this piece, I wanted to try to capture the kind of movement you would see from Cloud in Final Fantasy. Despite handling a massive Buster Sword, he's always really light on his feet, so I made this pose of him following up a massive swing of his sword with a materia spell attack, or as I like to call those attacks, the lightning thing that does nothing to your enemies. For real though, that's probably my biggest complaint about most JRPGs. I don't know if it's just me disrespecting the genre as a whole, but in most of those games when you hit someone you can't really tell because they don't react to the hit. Unlike other games where you can tell that they've been hit because chunks of them fly off or, their health bar goes down or something. But not so much in titles like Final Fantasy or Nier Automata or other JRPGs. That being said though, that's about the only gripe I really have against Final Fantasy VII's remake. I'm told there's some quality of life stuff that I'm sure to stumble upon when I get to them, but overall the story and art are really captivating, and that's something that I've always enjoyed about this series. In the past, while I've never played any of the Final Fantasy titles, I'd always find myself looking up character designs or scenery artwork for my projects at school. The characters mostly designed and drawn by Yoshitaka Amano and Tetsuya Nomura, sorry if I'm butchering those names, always had such great modern fantasy styles about them, mixing modern styles of clothing with massive fantasy weapons and hair that made them unforgettably iconic. I think this series owes a lot to the character designs for being so well recognizable. And the environments are no slouch either. The world building in Final Fantasy VII Remake is so immersive. It feels like you're living in Midgar with the characters. Every corner of the city tells a story, from the bustling streets of Sector 7 to the towering oppressive Shinra headquarters. I've really found myself getting lost in the world. Actually, really, I've gotten lost quite a bit of time. I'm not that great at reading a map, okay? When it comes to creating fan art for Cloud, one of the challenges I faced was staying true to his original design while making him feel fresh for myself. His Buster Sword is iconic, but the way it's held, swung, and even the weight of it is something that I really wanted to try to focus on this piece. Cloud's fighting style is graceful even when he's wielding such a hefty blade, so I wanted to try to capture it in the motion of this pose. Which isn't easy to do because, compositionally speaking, the sword is like 6 feet long, which is as tall as he is, so I've got to figure out how to horizontally represent that on the page. So you can see why I went landscape, and well, I'm getting probably a little more technical than most people wouldn't really care about my compositional, thoughts, but who knows. Anyway, as I start adding the details, I'm focusing on the lighting and shading to make Cloud pop out off the background. There's 3 lighting sources in this piece: the pale sun, the greenish-blue materia, and the orange flames. I wanted to make sure that each one of these light sources is showing up on the character, on his gear, and in the foreground pieces, and even a little bit in the background. Light reacts very differently to the material that it's interacting, so I try to make sure that each of the material's colors act naturally to the shift of one light source to the next. You'll notice the shading I start with is very hard-edged and graphic, so I get a sense of where the colors should go without fidgeting with the rendering just yet. I don't want to try to smooth everything out yet if I don't even have the right color figured out. I want the background to look like it's one of those plates from Sector 7. I try to imagine the camera of the scene as looking right up at Cloud as he plunges down to finish off some sort of robotic enemy, probably one of the mechs from Shinra that they keep unleashing that kind of annoy me. With the general painting and rendering done, I add some effects and some general adjustment layers, and we have our finished piece. I'm super happy with how this turned out, and I'm definitely going to keep exploring more Final Fantasy art and other projects that I'll be working on. Let me know in the comments if you like this artwork and who I should draw fan art of next, whether it's in Final Fantasy or any other cool game, especially if that game happens to have, a custom character creator, because those really make me happy. I enjoy those quite a bit. Until then, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Now go make something awesome.